frequencies that we've been using for over a decade in our telecommunications, and then mid-band, and then high band, and millimeter, sub-millimeter, and actually beyond into terahertz, which is being used experimentally. But 3.5 is being used now for 5G, and they found it induced anxiety-like behavior in mice. And they talk about, there's an image here just showing the alteration, like how there's the exposure impacts into the gut, into the flora, and then that leads to anxiety. And there's just many, many studies. You can go to PubMed or EMF portal or go to ehtrust.org, to our website, where we periodically post. Please sign up for our newsletter at ehtrust.org, where you can stay up to date with everything going on. The majority of studies show harm, the majority. And Dr. Henry Lai is a scientist who periodically puts out summaries of the science. He compiles them. He looks at percentages in terms of what studies, how much studies of every endpoint has found what. And his latest what he latest put out, it's on Safer EMR, which is Dr. Joel Moskowitz's webpage it's his blog on wireless radiation. Again, that's Safer EMR, Dr. Joel Moskowitz. Please, if you're interested in this, that is another go-to site to learn more. He is a professor out of UC Berkeley working on public health, long worked on tobacco, and he posted Dr. Henry Lai's summaries, finding 77% of studies on neurological impacts found effects since 2007, 70% since 1990 of genetic studies looking at genetic impacts. And when you look at oxidative stress, that 89% showed an effect since 1977. Now, Dr. Henry Lai found DNA damage in animal brains back in the mid-90s. And he tells the story of these findings and how after, documenting this and observing this, the science was attacked. He was personally attacked. In fact, there's an email, not an email, there was not an email then, it was a memo that between Motorola and Motorola's PR group that talked about war gaming Dr. Henry Lai's study, the findings. And that is actually how this issue has been addressed by corporations, is that they war game the science. They attack it, they attack the scientists, they downplay the findings, and thus the people are left in the dark. We don't know. We think that there's doubt that there is an issue when there are scientists saying quite clearly, the science shows that this is a proven human carcinogen. There's several scientists who are saying that. Now, there are scientists that also say it's a probable, some say it's a possible, but nonetheless, when you're in a situation like this, what do? We have many scientists on one side and on the other side, and on the side that says, well, we're not sure yet, those scientists tend to be funded by the wireless industry, or they're relying on studies that were designed with funding by wireless companies. Doubt is their product. So I'll talk a little bit about that more in a bit. But already we have numerous governments that say children should reduce cell phone radiation. Now, many people in these countries aren't even aware that their own government agencies say it quite clearly on certain web pages. Now, you have to find it, and that's the challenge here. But it's actually stated on documents, on fact sheets, on the Public Health Organization's site. And that's because, of course, children are more vulnerable, and they have developing brains, they have smaller bodies, they have developing immune systems, and they need to be protected. So here we are in the United States, where the US government actually says, if you are worried, here are 3 things you can do. Well, by the way, many of these countries actually have very robust and complex web pages. They have public health campaigns, not all of them, some of them, and they explain this situation. Whereas in the United States, we are not provided that information. We have just a few websites which say almost nothing, which completely downplay the issue. I'll be talking more about that. And that's in contrast to, for example, this is the public health campaign in Cyprus. This is the back of a bus. They have public buses with full back of the bus ads. That's Greek. And on the other side, you have the English. Don't irradiate me. Learn how to protect me. The radiation is possibly carcinogenic. And they have a website and brochures and pamphlets that talk all about how exposure can be reduced to your child. They even have videos, a video for teenagers, a video for expecting mothers, a video for parents, and they explain how to reduce exposure. They explain why to reduce exposure. And yet in the United States, most people aren't even aware that there is an exposure, right? Now in California, the California Department of Public Health has a cell phone advisory that says, do not sleep with your phone in your bed or near your head. It talks about using speakerphone and reducing exposure to your phone. It talks about how children are more vulnerable to wireless radiation. And it was kept under wraps for years, for a decade, actually, only revealed when Dr. Joel Moskowitz filed a public information request, a Freedom of Information request in California, and forced the department to release this advisory, which, as it turns out, had been edited and re-edited and redrafted for years since it was first drafted. And in the first draft, by the way, it talked about the California state employees ensuring that they know about this, ensuring that they know how to protect their families, ensuring that the state purchase low radiation phones. It had this whole, it was like this unbelievably long document about what to do. And when this was finally released just a few years ago after the Freedom of Information Act request forced this to be released, it was just 2 pages, completely watered down, but still actually very powerful because it still talks about children. It talks about phones, but there are things that were eliminated like cordless phones. And certainly when this was drafted many years ago, we didn't have Alexa or, Wi-Fi routers everywhere or all of these devices that we have now. Nonetheless, that advisory has been released, and the California Department of Health says that you should reduce exposure to your kids. Now, there's also, my goodness, appeals, statements, scientific, long documents talking about the science and what's recommended by scientists going back for decades as well. We have these on our website at ehtrust.org. The EMF Scientist Appeal is one place to start. That is 258 scientists from 44 nations who have published on the issue of non-ionizing electromagnetic fields. And they talk about the scientific evidence, and they have requests. They have recommendations to the World Health Organization and the UN to take urgent action. And they also talk about that children and pregnant women need to be protected. Regulations need to be strengthened, that manufacturers need to develop safer technology. The public needs to be informed, and governments need to fund research that's independent of industry. And also, they talk about how the media needs to disclose experts' financial relationships with industry when they're citing their opinions. So, for example, if you just type in cell phones and health or wireless and health, there are tons of news articles, those short little news articles. And right there, the science is being downplayed by certain scientists, but they don't say that those scientists have been funded by the wireless industry, of which numerous have that are cited. I'll talk more about that more. And that's never presented. So we think, or the public thinks, that everything's safe, that wireless is safe, and these experts say so. But we need to know about that financial relationship, because studies have shown that when there is a financial funding into studies, that they more often don't show effects, right? And studies that are done by independent scientists don't more often show effects. And the EMF Scientist Appeal also recommends safe zones, radiation-free zones that need to be established so that people have a safe place to go. People who have developed symptoms or want to protect themselves, they need a safe place. And what you see on the left side is what you see on the left side is these New York 5G towers that are sprouting up all over the city, many of which are already installed. They are sometimes closer than 10 feet. We found one at 9.5 feet, right from bedroom windows. This is one of hundreds. Now, there's groups in New York City that are working on this. There are over 16 community boards that are saying, we don't want this, we don't like this, this needs to stop. They've issued resolutions, moratoriums, letters of disapproval. And so that's all happening as we speak. But nonetheless, these are up. And it's part of the insanity and the hubris of this whole situation. I mean, radiation aside, these are ugly. They have no place anywhere. And yet they are being put upon us despite not being asked. I mean, the people who live